Go.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm about to head outside and do some work, but it's a bloody scorcher today. I just want to give you guys a tip if you are working outside in extreme heat. Obviously, you've got to stay hydrated. This is my tip. You grab your stubby coolers. Here I've got a Golden Beach fishing and the good old King Chrome magnets. Leave them in the freezer. So you place them in the freezer, and what I do is I put some ice in them, and then I put the beer straight in it, or your choice of drink. So handy tip, leave your coolers in the freezer. Now no other YouTuber shows you that, so let's get to it. Alright guys, so yeah, we're just working on the MX6 today. Come over, have a look at this. I've been trying to diagnose a little miss in it from idle to about 1500 RPM. So I've just gone through it. I've taken the heat shield off the exhaust manifold, and I've noticed down here, I don't know if you can see it, but I noticed down here it's actually missing an exhaust stud altogether. And the other, you won't be able to see it, but the other exhaust stud under here was loose. So even though that might not be directly contributing to it missing, it may, depending where the sensors and stuff are. I've got to fix that. The ignition lead broke, so that could be a factor because it was an old lead. So yeah, so I'm just going to, I went down to local automotive shop and just bought a cheap replacement lead and some new high tensile exhaust stud manifold nuts. So we're just going to do that quickly, but before we start, as I mentioned earlier, it is a scorcher and it's probably like 35 degrees in this shed. So here's one I prepared earlier. Now I don't know how you blokes far north can drink that lemon squash absolute crap. This is the real deal. Us down in the south, we drink the real deal. Anyway, if I keep doing too much of this, there's not going to be much of this. So that's, oh, my ice trick works, but you just can't sit it anywhere. So let's just sit it there. All right, so to begin with, we're just going to do these nuts quickly. Come down here. Ah. Let's get this started. Nice simple task. So we're going to tidy this up. I've been advised to change the fuel filter as well, but the shop didn't have a fuel filter in stock, so I'm going to have to wait for that to come in. But let's just see if the lead and doing these nuts up makes any difference at all. With any front wheel drive cars, everything is an absolute pain to get to. That's why they just jam, especially like this thing, it's turbo, so everything's just jammed in a tight space. There are far worse setups than this old beast, but nonetheless, still not really much room. Now, I'm gonna grab my breaker bar. Now this is a bit of an overkill, so just be careful not to, if you're going to use something this big on exhaust studs, not to snap it. For some reason when I've moved into here I can't find my ratchet, so if you're going to do this, just do it with caution. Well, that's good to know. It's just pulled and threaded the exhaust stud, so obviously that may be why previously it had no nut on it. So if you see that, I'm going to have to get a new, can you see that in there? So I'm going to have to get a new exhaust stud, because you can see that the thread is just absolutely cactus. Looks like there's someone, yeah, might have even had a helicoil in it before. But anyway, let's do the bottom one up. Perfect. All right, so look at that back. All right, so I'm just gonna place it on for now. So if you look over here, just nice and simple. A lot of cars these days probably don't have setups like this where you have a lead going from a coil to a distributor, but the older cars do. So most of the times they have their coil on plugs. So route this nice and neat, and this goes to the cap in here. Nice and tight up here. Put that back on. Alrighty, so let's see by chance how effed this is. Alright, so the best thing to do in this case to see if this will go in, which I don't know, is you run a nut on down below, and then you run a nut on the top. Put the two nuts together, and that should stop the nut screwing all the way in and pulling the stud out again. So let's see by a miracle if we can actually get this in, or whether I got to take the exhaust manifold off and or thread it properly. So far so good. Look at that, nice and tight. So I don't want to round it off anymore. So that's nice and tight. Normally then you'd just take that nut off, but I don't want to muck around with this because the thread's already pretty average as it is, and the mechanic gods have kissed me on the butt and actually let that tighten up, and all you guys that work on cars know how rare that is. So I'll move this stuff out the way. Now, like I said earlier, I am missing the fuel filter, which is over here. Of course, being an old Mazda turbo, nothing's simple. So, and when I say old Mazda turbo, not only is it old, it's not common. So it's very hard to get stuff off the shelf for them. So I've ordered a W306 fuel filter for that. But for now, let's actually see if there is any difference at all. But before I do that, I am sweating. All right, guys. Let's fire this bad boy up. Doesn't like me at all. It was running good. That's another thing, if you work on cars, you know you fix one thing and then out of the blue some other random thing happens. So it doesn't want to fire up. Now let's have a look. That looks like it's in there. So that's in there properly. That felt like it was in there. Another trick is if you just want to double check that they're in there properly, pull the boot back, pop the metal bit all the way in. You've confirmed that it is actually in the dizzy, and then just pop that in. That's all in, that's all in, that's all in, that's all in. There can't really be anything else. I haven't. Oh, okay. I took this intake off previously just to check it all out, but I didn't think that that would make a difference, but obviously it does. So we'll just sit all that back on there. Now let's see if it wants to fire up. It's got a lazy HLA lash adjuster, so I'm going to do a engine flush and put some fresh oil in it, but for now we'll just test it. Look at that, it's smooth as butter. That's awesome. So by the sounds of it, it wasn't actually the fuel filter, it was just a dodgy coil lead and or having loose exhaust studs. So we'll give it a quick rev, make sure it is. That is smooth as. So before I heat up the manifold too much, got to put all the heat shields and stuff back on, but I won't bore you guys with that. So yeah, real simple fix. I had a miss from idle up until about 1500 to 2000 RPM. Found the exhaust studs, nuts either missing, found that one stripped. Luckily, I don't know what happened, but luckily we were able to get that stud back on, put a new ignition coil in. So all I got to do now is just, the reason I took the turbo, I'll show you guys this. The reason I took the turbo intake hose off is I just wanted to check if there's any oil in the system to make sure the turbo oil control rings are sealed. In the system is really dry, so that's awesome. So I'm just going to do up this clamp, do up the intake clamp, and then yeah, we're done. So depending on the weather, I don't want to drive it in too much heat because I haven't driven it far, so I don't far enough to confirm and give me confidence that everything's 100% all right. But as I go through and find these little things, we'll take it for a bit of a longer drive. But that is awesome. The lead cost me like $3-4 bucks, and the nuts, I think it was like $10 all up. So $10, fix a simple solution. So if you guys got an older car, don't be afraid to jump in and just pull a few things apart. As long as you either take photos or you record where everything goes back. Yeah, don't be afraid to get stuck into it and DIY. This is what we're all about. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the little tip I gave you. Put these in the freezer and you'll enjoy beers colder or for longer. Thanks.